Topic 6-5, more graphing with x, but this time it's where the shift is where you have two of the same, because if you say x plus 5 squared, that's like saying x plus 5, x plus 5. You actually have two of them. So if you were to put this in your calculator, notice what happens when I graph it. You're going to want to make sure you put it in parentheses, but when you graph it, instead of starting at 0, 0 at the parent function, because it's a positive 5, it shifts to the left, and it's going to be at negative 5. If you recall, each of these set equal to 0, you would be saying x plus, well, let's just try to do it over here, x plus 5 is equal to 0. So what happens is x does become a negative 5 when you subtract 5 from both sides. So that's why the shift moves to the left. So again, you can look in, I didn't reference this one, but it is in our Holt textbook chapter 9 on mainly section 4, but also section 5 too in that chapter in our textbook. Okay, so let's look at the other one. Let's say if we go to another shift, if you were to put it as a minus sign, watch what happens here. I'm just going to change this to minus and graph it. Notice how it shifts this direction as a positive 5. Likewise, you have x minus 5, x minus 5. That's what this means. And when you solve for each, setting them equal to 0, you're adding 5 to both sides. Therefore, x is 5. So if you, this is where you kind of think about opposites. It's going to shift to the left if it's positive, ending up as an answer being negative. It's going to be right when it's negative, but your answer is positive. So you are thinking in terms of opposites when looking at each of these type of transformation. So let's look at some of the other examples. You can actually put these in your calculator if you'd like, but if we already kind of know the rule that's going on here, from the parent, again, this is called the parent function, from that point on your xy axis, if you want to sketch it, that's actually a parabola that is exactly in the middle. Well, it's not quite exact, but that would be at the origin 0, 0. What happens when it shifts in a positive? Well, again, you're thinking it actually is going to end up being a negative answer, so it shifts one unit over to the left. Number 2, this is negative, so it's going to shift right 3 places. Notice this right here. You've got to make sure you also note which way it's going to open. If it's a negative x squared, which this in parentheses is showing it to be negative, it's going to open downward and shift to the right 7 places to end up at a positive 7. Positive shifts left 4 places, and it's also going to open down because of that negative sign. This is going to open down and describe what kind of change that's going to be off of y equals x squared. That's actually going to be wider. Remember, again, thinking as it gets closer and closer to a flat line, it's a smaller number. As the number gets larger, it gets narrower. So we're not shifting at all because there's no plus or minus any constant number here. But here there is. It's not only opens downward, but it's also going to shift down 4 units. But notice the reason this is not shifting left or right is because there's no parentheses to say that there were 2 binomials here. So this one, and we'll probably maybe graph one of these. I've not been graphing any of them. So let's see. Oops, clear this out. Negative x squared minus 4. And graph it. See, it goes down, but it stayed on the y-axis. It's just turned upside down 4 units from the 0, 0 origin. It's shifted downward. Likewise, this is a shift that's going to go up 3 units. Again, notice the difference between this kind of problem and the ones that were mentioned in 1 through 4, where it's parenthesis. So take a minute, make sure you know enough how to do those. Take good notes and you'll do well on the assignment page. But let's look at this one. If you write an equation that's given to the right, so we're not given the equations, you're having to write them in. Well, it stayed along here, but it shifts over a positive, and your answer is going to end up being 1. So that's the case of shifting from the origin in parentheses. A positive shift makes it a negative binomial. So x minus 1. Okay, look at this one. It shifts over and to be the answer of a negative 2. So we've got to make sure this is a positive inside the parentheses, but why is this negative? Only because it's upside down. So opens downward, shifts to the left 2 units. Number 3, notice how we didn't shift off of the x-axis at all. I'm sorry, off the y-axis, so there's no parentheses for this picture. This picture is actually staying x squared. It just shifted down 1, 2, 3. It's on the 3rd unit. So no parentheses for this one. Only if it shifts left or right do we put the parentheses of having 2 binomials. This one's opening downward because of it has a max. This one has a min. Try to remember those terms too. And this one actually shifted up 2 units, so you say plus 2. The negative in front only describes the orientation, which direction this parabola is going. And that concludes 6-5.